Hello and welcome to Self-Awareness Path. Have you ever argued with someone about a shared memory and realized both of you were completely certain, yet both versions were different? One person remembers the exact words that were spoken, while the other remembers the silence in the room, the tension in the air, the emotional weight of the moment. What often surprises us is that the strongest memory is not always the most accurate one. Human memory is not a recording device. It is a reconstruction shaped by emotions, expectations, and meaning. Our brains are designed to prioritize survival, not precision. From an evolutionary perspective, remembering how something made us feel was often more useful than remembering every small factual detail. If a situation felt threatening, painful, joyful, or deeply rewarding, the emotional charge signaled importance. That emotional intensity acted like a mental highlighter, telling the brain, "This matters. Keep this." Over time, the emotional tone of an experience becomes easier to retrieve than the exact sequence of events that created it. Neuroscience shows that emotional experiences activate the amygdala, a brain region closely connected to memory systems such as the hippocampus. When the amygdala is strongly activated, during fear, excitement, love, embarrassment, or anger, it sends signals that strengthen memory encoding. This is why many people remember where they were during major world events or significant personal turning points. However, while the emotional core of the memory becomes stronger, the surrounding factual details often become less reliable. The memory feels vivid, yet the accuracy can quietly drift over time. Think about childhood memories. Many people can recall the emotional atmosphere of a birthday celebration, the excitement, the laughter, the feeling of being surrounded by people who care. Yet when asked about the exact year, the order of events, or the specific conversations that took place, the details often become uncertain. What remains clear is the emotional impression. In many ways, the emotional meaning becomes the memory itself. This has profound implications for how relationships function. In daily interactions, people often believe disagreements are about facts. Who said what? Who arrived late? Who forgot something? But beneath these disagreements, emotional memories frequently drive reactions. One person may not remember the exact words spoken during a past argument, but they clearly remember the feeling of being dismissed, ignored, or misunderstood. That emotional memory shapes how they interpret future interactions, sometimes long after the original event has faded. Because emotional memories are powerful, they also influence how personal identity develops. The stories people tell themselves about their lives are rarely collections of neutral facts. They are emotional narratives, moments of pride, rejection, success, loss, belonging, or transformation. Over time, these emotionally charged memories become the foundation for beliefs such as, "We are resilient," "We are not good enough," "People cannot be trusted," or "Hard work always pays off." The emotional intensity attached to certain experiences gives those experiences greater weight when shaping identity, even if they represent only a small fraction of reality. Interestingly, emotional memory can also distort perception in subtle ways. When people recall a highly emotional event, the brain often fills in missing details to create a coherent story. This process, called memory reconstruction, happens automatically. Each time a memory is recalled, it is slightly rewritten before being stored again. Over years, this repeated reconstruction can gradually shift factual accuracy while preserving the emotional core. The result is a memory that feels extremely real, extremely vivid, and extremely certain, yet may differ from what actually happened. This is not a flaw in human intelligence. It is a feature of how the brain assigns meaning. Emotional intensity tells the brain what deserves attention and what can be forgotten. Without this filtering system, the mind would be overwhelmed by an endless stream of trivial details. By prioritizing emotional significance, the brain organizes experiences into patterns that help guide future behavior. If a past situation felt painful, the brain learns caution. If it felt rewarding, the brain learns to repeat similar actions. Accuracy becomes secondary to usefulness. However, this emotional prioritization also explains why misunderstandings can persist for years. Two individuals may share the same experience, but store different emotional meanings. One person may remember an event as humorous, while another remembers it as humiliating. Because the emotional memory feels undeniable, Each person believes their interpretation is the real one. Recognizing that emotional memory is subjective can open the door to empathy. Instead of arguing about which version is correct, it becomes possible to ask a deeper question. What did this moment feel like for each of us? Emotional intensity does not only strengthen negative memories, it also amplifies positive ones. Moments of connection, encouragement, or kindness often remain vivid long after the factual circumstances fade. A single supportive comment from a teacher, mentor, or friend can shape confidence for years, even if the exact conversation cannot be recalled word for word. This demonstrates the long-term influence of emotional experiences. Small emotional moments, repeated consistently, can reshape how individuals view themselves and the world. Another fascinating aspect of emotional memory is that anticipation can sometimes create memories even stronger than the event itself. The excitement before a major life milestone, graduation, travel, a new opportunity, can imprint emotional expectations that later color how the experience is remembered. If expectations are very high, the emotional memory may feel slightly disappointing, even when the event itself was objectively positive. Conversely, an unexpected joyful moment can feel extraordinarily memorable because the emotional impact arrives without warning. Understanding the difference between emotional intensity and factual accuracy allows people to reflect more carefully on their own memories. When recalling an event that still triggers strong feelings, it can be helpful to ask, which parts of this memory are emotional impressions and which parts are verifiable facts? This does not mean dismissing emotions. Emotions carry valuable information about personal meaning and psychological needs. It means recognizing that the emotional truth of an experience and the factual details of that experience are not always identical. This awareness can improve communication, decision-making, and self-understanding. In conversations, acknowledging emotional memories rather than debating every factual detail often reduces defensiveness. In personal reflection, recognizing how emotionally intense experiences shape beliefs helps identify patterns that may no longer be useful. For example, a single painful rejection may create the emotional memory that opportunities always end badly, even as many later experiences contradict that belief. By revisiting the memory with awareness, it becomes possible to separate the emotional imprint from the broader reality. Therapists and psychologists often work with this principle when helping individuals process past experiences. Instead of trying to erase memories, the goal is to reinterpret the emotional meaning attached to them. When the emotional intensity changes, through understanding, reframing, or healing, the memory itself often feels different. The factual event remains the same, but the emotional weight becomes lighter, allowing the individual to respond differently in the present. It is also important to understand that emotional memory shapes collective experiences, not only personal ones. Communities, organizations, and even entire societies carry emotional memories of shared events. These emotional narratives influence how groups respond to change, conflict, and opportunity. When collective emotional memories are strongly positive, they foster unity and confidence. When they are dominated by fear or mistrust, they can shape long-term attitudes that persist across generations. Recognizing the power of emotional memory encourages intentional living. Since emotional intensity determines what the brain remembers most strongly, everyday emotional environments matter. Repeated experiences of encouragement, appreciation, curiosity, and connection gradually build a mental landscape filled with supportive emotional references. Over time, this changes how new experiences are interpreted, because the brain compares the present moment with emotionally stored patterns from the past. This understanding also highlights why small moments should never be underestimated. A brief conversation, a gesture of kindness, or a few words spoken during a difficult time may not seem historically significant, yet emotionally, they can become defining memories. Long after the details fade, the emotional meaning remains, influencing decisions, confidence, and relationships in ways that are rarely visible from the outside. When reflecting on personal experiences, it becomes clear that life is remembered less as a timeline of events and more as a sequence of emotional landmarks. Certain moments stand out not because they were objectively the most important, but because they carried the strongest emotional charge. By becoming aware of this process, individuals gain the ability to shape future memories intentionally, by creating experiences filled with meaningful emotional presence rather than focusing solely on external achievements. In the end, the realization that people remember emotional moments more intensely than accurate details is not something to fear, it is something to understand and use wisely. Emotions guide attention, shape memory, and influence identity. By recognizing how emotional intensity affects what is remembered, people can communicate with greater empathy, reflect with greater clarity, and create experiences that leave positive emotional imprints not only in their own lives, but also in the lives of others. Because what is remembered most strongly is not always what happened, it is what was felt. And understanding this truth opens a deeper path towards self-awareness. Thanks for watching. Your support is crucial to us at Self-Awareness Path. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to stay updated and help our channel grow. Don't forget to like and share. It shows your appreciation and boosts our visibility. We value your feedback or any suggestions you might have, so drop a comment. Explore more content on our channel. There's plenty to discover. Thanks for being part of our community, and see you in the next video.